This is the voice of the Mysterons. We know that you can hear us, Earthmen. I will now do a review of Gerry Anderson's 1967 television science fiction show, Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. Um, the reason Captain Scarlet is my second favorite Gerry Anderson TV show. My favorite was UFO, but I already did a review of that, so I'm not going to go into it. One of the things I liked about it is that the tone of the series is way darker than his early series. It's about a crew is sent by this international organization called Spectrum to Mars in the year 2068 to investigate a mysterious radio signal that they've picked up. And they're sent in this Mars exploration vehicle on a Zero X rocket, which was first used in the Thunderbirds. And they arrive at Mars, and they can't seem to locate anything. They don't understand where these signals are coming from. Finally, they crest a ridge, and they see this fabulous Martian city. But they don't see any people. There just seems to be abandoned, and they're starting to investigate it. And we see inside the city that there are invisible beings who are known as the Mysterons, and they say, "Oh, here's the first crew from Earth, and they also have a curiosity about the universe. Let's take a closer look at them." And they swing their antenna around to a telescope around to take a look at them. Well, Captain Black, the leader of the expedition, thinks that the telescope is a weapon and that they're going to fire on him. So he fires first. He fires missiles down the city, and it's completely destroyed. And later, seconds later, much to their shock and dismay, the city is recreated by a strange machine. It turns out that the Mysterons have a power called retrometabolism, or reversing matter, where they can recreate something that's been destroyed. And now they're angry. They say, you started this with an unprovoked attack, and now we're going to take our revenge. And they take over Captain Black and Captain Scarlet, the leaders of the mission, and they send them back to Earth to assassinate the world president. Captain Scarlet kidnaps the world president and takes him up to this thing called the London Skyview, which is an aerial car park, and is going to throw him off the top. And he is rescued at the last moment by Captain Blue, voice played by Ed Bishop. And Captain Scarlet, is shot off the top of this thing, and Ed Bishop rescues the world president with his jetpack and flies safely to the ground as the car view collapses from a bomb that he was going to use to kill the president. But Captain Scarlet miraculously recovers. He is not dead, and now he's free of the Mysteron influence, and he's gained this power of retrometabolism. He cannot, basically, he's become immortal. He can't be killed, indestructible. And he's going to now lead the fight against the Mysterons. And that plays out in the future episodes. It was very well done, and one of the great scientific advances that have been made between the Thunderbirds and Captain Scarlet is that the device that they used to create the quote-unquote Supermarionation effect, which was lip syncing the puppets' lips to pre-recorded voices, was that it was miniaturized and it could now be placed in the chest of the puppet rather than the head, so they could shrink the heads down to look proportional to the human bodies. And I really liked that a lot. Some people thought it was creepy. I didn't. I thought it was great. I thought it made the characters much more realistic looking. And that was important because this was a much more realistic show. It wasn't as exaggerated as, say, the Thunderbirds or Joe 90 or Fireball XL5. And again, because the heads were proportional, they looked better. They could also change their expressions by using different heads. Like if they wanted them to smile, they had a smiley head. If they wanted them to frown, they had a frowny head. That kind of thing. They could exchange them. And so they looked a lot more realistic. As I said, the organization was called Spectrum, and all of its members were given color-coded names. Captain Scarlet's real name was Paul Metcalf. He was British. He was played by Francis Matthews, and Matthews was hired because he could do a Cary Grant impersonation. And if you listen to Captain Scarlet, he sounds a bit like Cary Grant, though his voice is not as exaggerated. Captain Blue's real name is Adam Svensson. He's American. He was played by Ed Bishop, who was an American living in England. Colonel White, their leader, his real name is Charles Gray, and he was British. He was played by Donald Gray. Lieutenant Green, who was black, Trinidadian, his real name is Seymour Griffiths, and he was played by Cy Grant. Captain Black was Conrad Turner, and he's British again. He's played by Donald Gray. Captain Ogre, real name was Richard Fraser, and he was American. He was played by Jeremy Wilkin. Captain Magenta, his name is Patrick Donahue, and he was Irish, and he was played by Gary Files. Captain Gray's name was Brady Holden. He was an American, played by Paul Maxwell. Dr. Fawn, who was their surgeon, was Australian. His real name was Edward Wilkie, and he was played by Charles Tingwell. Destiny Angel, the operations base of Spectrum is called Cloud Base, and it's basically a floating aircraft carrier. And they are protected by these 5 interceptor pilots who are all women. And they're called the Angels. Destiny Angel was the leader of the Angels. Her real name was Juliette Pontoin. She was French, and she was played by Liz Morgan. Her puppet was made to look like Ursula Andress. Um, Symphony Angel is played. Her name is Karen Wainwright. She's an American. She was played by Liz Morgan. Although they don't really say who her puppet was modeled after, it was either supposed to look like Sylvia Anderson, or I thought she looked kind of like Wanda Ventham, who was also in UFO. A beautiful blonde with blue eyes, and that's how the puppet was portrayed as well. My favorite was Rhapsody Angel, whose real name is Diane Sims. She was British, played by Liz Morgan, and her puppet was based on the beautiful British supermodel Jean Shrimpton, who popularized the mini skirt. She wore a short tennis dress that went above her knee, and during a perfume ad, and the company was deluged with calls not about the perfume, but where could they get the dress. So that really took off. Um, Melody Angel was black, and she was played by Magnolia Jones. She was American. She was voiced by Sylvia Anderson. Harmony Angel is Japanese. Her name was Chan Kwan, and she was played by both Liz Morgan and Lian Shun. And so the organization was very, international, and there was equality between men and women, and they all had important roles to play. That had to do with Anderson's own upbringing. He said he never knew any prejudice against any, but he was raised to that everybody was equal, including women, and he played up on that. There were 32 episodes. They're all terrific. One of my favorites is called Lunarville 7, and it takes place on the moon. And the moon is not involved in this quote unquote war of nerves between Earth and the Mysterons. They don't want to be. They don't want to participate in. They declare that they're independent, and they actually make an offer to the Mysterons, which upsets Colonel White, and he sends Captain Scarlet, Captain Blue, and Lieutenant Green to investigate what's going on. They go to the moon, and they find that the lunar controller is kind of hostile. He doesn't really like them. He doesn't really welcome them very much, and they really he's really not a very nice person. And it turns out, of course, that he's a Mysteron. The Mysterons can take control of anybody, but they have to kill him first, basically. And that's one of the kind of gruesome things about it. There's a lot of murder shown in this series. One guy was crushed against he was in a car mechanic, and he's working on a car, and he's crushed against the ceiling when Captain Black pushes the lift up, and he's crushed to death. People are run over by tanks and killed in train crashes, and the bombs explode and kill them. Vehicles crash into people. It is really quite violent for what was meant to be a children's show, but it has really quite adult themes in it. I always thought of it as a more adult show. That's one of the reasons I liked it. It wasn't dumbed down, it was aimed at kids, but not it didn't preach down to them. Um, One of my favorite, like I said, Lunarville 7. They go to investigate this claim that the people who live on the moon don't want to participate, and that they're kind of offering to cooperate with the Mysterons. They find out that there's a Mysteron base that's being constructed in a crater called Crater 101 on the far side of the moon. And by switching his identity disk with the lunar controller, he gets past the identification computer, which is called SID, which stands for, I think, Synthetic Identification Device, something like that. Synchronized in something. I don't remember what it stands for, but anyway, it's a computer that can recognize people by these disks, and it speaks, and is basically an artificial intelligence. It thinks he's the controller, so it lets him take a moon hopper. And they have these. One of the cool things, they have these devices called vehicles called a moon hopper, which is sort of a shuttle that is on springs, and when they go one place, it hops, goes about 20 feet, lands, and hops again, and that's the way it moves. And that makes sense because the moon has only 1/6 Earth gravity. It somewhat influenced the moonmobiles in UFO, I thought, which move more smoothly, but use a very similar principle. I thought that was very well done. And they find this complex. It's apparently either abandoned or it's run automatically. And then the lunar controller starts trying to kill them. And they kind of finally outwit him, but he destroys the computer SID at the end, and then Lunarville Southern explodes. They had already been evacuated, everybody, uh, these Mysteron agents, and nobody is killed except them. But the base is destroyed, and later they go back to the moon in a separate episode called Crater 101, where they go and investigate, and there are new, administrators in a new lunar city who are more sympathetic, and including kind of an attractive girl, and she kind of develops a little bit of a thing for Captain Scarlet, but she gives him this medal that she won for doing a Neptune run in record time, and they go to investigate the city, and they find that there are these automatic machines, and they figure out which one is the controlling machine. They're going to destroy it, and then hopefully that'll stop whatever's going on. They go through some, and they're in this like little lunar tank. They go through that, and they did finally destroy the machine after some other machines try to destroy them, and then they go into the complex, which is very strange and is very well done. This is all done with like plastic and lucite and lighting, and it looks real. It looks kind of cool. There's an anti-gravity area, weightless area, I should say, where they step into and they go up a level just by being there. And they're looking around. There are all these strange machines. And one thing that they find is what they think is the power source of this city. And they decide they're going to take it back with them. Well, their time is limited because they're going to destroy this city with a small thermonuclear bomb. And what they don't know is that one of the new lunar controller, the girl's assistants, is a Mysteron agent, and has changed the timing of the bomb. So it's not going to go off at midnight, it's going to go off at 10 o'clock. And that leads to a very suspenseful ending, which I won't spoil for you, but it's kind of interesting. That device, called the scintillator, shows up again in another episode where they're trying to destroy Cloud Base. Again, I won't spoil that for you because that's a good episode. One of my favorites, absolute favorites, is called Attack on Cloud Base, and it starts off with Symphony Angel mysteriously her jet. The jets are called Angel Interceptors. Crashes in the desert, and she bails out, but the jet is destroyed, and she's waiting to be retrieved, and she basically passes out, and we don't see what happens after that. Then the Spectrum receives a message, a warning from the Mysterons that they're going to attack Cloud Base. So they put everybody on alert. Everything kind of goes haywire. They suddenly start seeing all these UFOs in the sky, and this starts up with one, and then there's two, and then there's 10, and then there's 20, and they're surrounding Cloud Base, and they destroy all the interceptors. Rhapsody Angel is killed, Melody Angel is killed. The Cloud Base defenses are basically overwhelmed. It starts to spin out of control, and at the end, everybody is killed, even Captain Scarlet. And he asks Dr. Fomal, how long is it going to take to bring him back? He says, no, you don't understand. He's dead. He's really dead. Like, he's finally dead. He can't be resurrected. And then Cloud Base goes out. He orders, Colonel White orders everybody off, but they really can't escape because it's spinning out of control. It's going to crash into the Earth. Its atmosphere jets have been destroyed. And so Colonel White kind of goes down the ship, and the last thing he sees, he gives the British salute. And then Symphony Angel wakes up in the desert. It's all been basically a dream. And I thought that was kind of a cheap ending, but it's also, well done. And they also reveal that Captain Blue is in love with her, which I thought was a good reveal. They had mentioned something earlier, and there was an earlier episode where he gave her a medallion. And there was a little hint that something was going on, but this one he confesses that he's in love with her, which I thought was kind of interesting. That's really the only character in the series that has a relationship within the organization, anyway. Some other really great episodes. Point 783 about an automated tank is really cool. One of the great things I loved about this show was the vehicles which were designed by Derek Meddings and his assistant Mike Trim. Mike Trim went on to design most of the vehicles, including Skydiver, the Interceptors, the Shadow Mobiles, and the futuristic cars in UFO. Though, again, Derek Meddings had a hand in that as well. And the one I liked best was called the SPV, which stands for Spectrum Pursuit Vehicle. And they would hide these in like old container trucks, like the panels of the container truck would break down, and then there'd be an SPV inside. The SPVs were driven backwards by people looking through a monitor which showed them what was going the road outside. They had no external windows, which for an armored vehicle I thought was a good idea. They didn't have like a tank commander's cupola where you could be shot if you stood up there. You could stay inside the vehicle and it could be shot at, and it was bulletproof and you wouldn't be harmed. I thought that was really a good design. I've always wanted one of the original dinky interceptors, but I couldn't get one in Haworth, New Jersey in 1968. They're available now, obviously, on eBay, but they're worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which I can't afford. Apparently, Corgi has built one which is only a little bit smaller and pretty much has the same features. It has a Captain Scarlet figure that drops down. It's got the tank treads, which drop down the back. It's got the missile that fires out the front. Although in the series, it wasn't a missile, it was a cannon that fired out the front of the SPV. The other cool vehicles were the maximum security vehicle, which also Dinky made a model of, and the Spectrum Saloon Car, which is their standard vehicle for transportation, which they made models of that too. Dinky did, and I think there are also eMay. I think makes model kits that you can build them. Really good series. Great special effects, great explosions, creepy, great atmospheric music by the great Barry Gray, who also did the intro theme. The end theme was sung by a group called the Spectrum, and is very interesting and a very good song by itself. And I highly recommend the series. It's really good.